Alright, so now we're at the torso. I've already made other videos, but this is just to explain a little bit better what I've done. This one is screen accurate. The guy that I'm building it for is 5'7", 5'8", about 155, 160, 65, somewhere right in there. So he's a skinny guy. I didn't have to cut any of the sides off on the ab plate or the kidney. And very minimal that I cut off on the actual sides of the armor here. So we left most of that on. So the first thing, we have the Anovos belt with the Rob Kittle belt. So we got that, the holster, that's snapped on. So it's semi-permanent. We went ahead and cut down, we trimmed down the ab plate, the buttons, and the other ab button. It's all flat, so it sits on there flat. There's no edge. We cut it straight to the edge, sand it down, make it nice and flat, and it just sticks right on there. Same thing with this one. And also when you put the belt on, you want to make sure the top of the belt is right there, kind of overlapping the ab plate just a tiny bit. Some people go a little bit higher, but I just put mine right there for this one. So on the inside, we're going to go into the inside. So I have what we call the taint strap. I have that in. So it's a split rivet here. It's supposed to be brass color. Snap on the end. I've done it before. Make sure you put that snap the right way. So when you snap it down into the butt plate, it snaps in. I actually accidentally did it on one, did it the wrong way, so I just told them to twist it so it fit on. You got the two snaps on the butt plate. We have all the brackets. I made the brackets. I didn't buy any. You can, if you want to, buy it from Mr. No Stripes. So he'll have all the brackets and he'll have all the elastic. Well, it depends on what kit. There's two kits. One with just the brackets. The second kit is with elastic and with all the nuts and bolts. So mine, because I didn't buy them in bulk, I just went to Ace. Mine are just a little bit long, but that's fine. They don't really stab you in the back or anything. Once you tighten them up, I just put E6000 on top of them to keep the bolt from loosening out. And you don't have to go super tight, just tight enough to where this isn't loose, the bracket, and it's not moving around. For the ab plate, to connect the ab plate and the kidney, it's 10 from this, from the very edge right here, not from the end, from the very outside one, but from the edge in, 10, and then I just kind of went here. You can go a little bit lower if you want. It doesn't really matter because it's gonna be covered anyways by the belt. So these are still painted, or I'm sorry, not painted, so I just got to paint these white. And again, I kept both sides, went ahead and kept all the excess material. So from here, I went from this edge here, so basically from the edge, 10. So I didn't quite go from the end, I went from where this little crease is at. And then the top ones, and the top ones here, same thing as the bottom ones. The elastic here, all he had at the time was this really thin stuff. Let me see that thicker one right there. He didn't get the one that I usually like because over time, this thin stuff that you can see through when you stretch it out, it's going to wear out. So I have a lot thicker. You can't see through it. This is a lot thicker. It'll last a lot longer. So I'm going to take this off and I'm going to glue it back in, fold it over, go ahead and put a new snap in there. And I also need to still put a snap right here, but it'll be the opposite side. So instead of the snap going this way, it'll be going this way. And then that's where you snap the shoulder bells into here, and then also right here. But again, I'm going to take these off and replace it with this better one. So I just cut this one. Actually, the other one, I have two of these that are this length. I'll just glue them in, and then whatever's excess, I'll just cut it off. And then I went ahead and glued on the shoulder bells. I'm sorry, not the shoulder bells, the shoulder straps. So I went ahead and they're glued up front and they're free floating in the back. And you see that big old mess of elastic right there. And then since I'm going to have to take this apart anyways, I haven't tied these on yet. But what you do is, once it's on, you just on, you just put it like this, and you tie it down. And you just tie a knot. Not a bow tie, just a knot. And then that knot, you just move it from the inside, so you can't see it. So this will hold this part from wanting to flap, wanting to spread out. It'll hold it down. So I already have a video of me putting this together for the Anovos one, but it's not, it doesn't go into really good detail. So here I'm just showing you what I've done. And obviously I've already done another video, so if it's not detailed enough, you can go back to the other video. But the other video, I did put shims on the side. This one I didn't. So no shims. So if you look, I don't know if you can see it, it's quite skinny. So you have to be very skinny in order to fit into this. I put it on myself, and I'm about 180, 175, and it fits me tightly. So if you are right around 180, 185, it'll fit you without any shims, but it is going to be tight. And if you're going for level 3 Centurion, you can have a ½ inch. You can have a ½ inch on both sides, and that'll make it a little bit easier to wear. But if you're the right size, it's better to have it closed. You don't want any gap. So you can go ½ inch on either side if it doesn't quite fit you. If it's more than a ½ inch, then you're going to have to shim it or go on a diet. Either, whatever's easier. There's not a lot of shim material. That's the only problem. This is the only shim material that they give you. So you're going to have to try to find something that will match this color. And then when you glue it on, I'll show you with this piece. When you glue it on, it's going to have, you're going to end up having 3 lines. Whatever that shim is up front, and then if you do one up on the other side, you're going to have that one, this one, and then that 3rd line. Some people fill it in, but if you lose weight and slim down, then you're going to have to worry about all that material you put in there to hide that seam. But luckily for me, for this one, we didn't have to do anything but put it together normally, cut it out normally. Like I said, I left plenty of return edge, just like it's supposed to. If you have any questions, there's going to be links at the bottom, right?
Yep.
And then you can always refer to my other builds.
Or whatever.
Alright, so this is the right side. I have the thigh, the shin, and the arm. The arms, Anovos sends you the shims. They're already 15. So 15 for the arms, 20 for the front of the shin, the front of the thigh, and the rear of the thigh. The rear of the shin is the wider 25. So the guy that I'm building it for is screen accurate size. He wasn't in the movie. So there's a ridge right here. I measure from the ridge 10, trim off all that excess. Same thing with the ridge on the other side. And all the parts have the ridges in the front. The back does not have any ridges, so it's a little bit trickier to do the back. So I do it from the ridge 10, and then from here, this side has a ridge, the other side doesn't. So I do 10, and then once I put it on his leg, and I pushed it in, so where it fits in comfortably to his leg, and then I just trim that excess off. So it's a little bit smaller here than it is here. But once you put it on, you'll never notice that. I just slightly trimmed this. The right side, it's a little bit different on other armors. I went ahead and simulated how the right side normally looks. Usually the right side is lower than the left side. So since he's 5'7", 5'8", I might end up having to trim more off because it's a lot easier to trim the bottom of the shin to give you that gap. You kind of want a gap right here so you can bend. You don't want it where it's covering it, and you don't want it that far. You just want it enough where you can bend. So I'm going to try not to cut the top on either one, but I can cut the bottom So I'm going to reshape these and make it to where it's more screen accurate, and I've already made it on this side. So if I have to go up higher up, that's fine. I didn't glue it on the bottom, so I could trim this off and make it flatter. Same thing with this one, I didn't quite glue it yet. So if I have to make it shorter, I can make it shorter from here. If I have to make it shorter again, then I'm going to have to mess with the top here, and I really don't want to trim any of this off, because if I do, well, I've already glued it down, so I'm going to have to pop it back off, but I'm going to have to make a return edge. Some people use a heat iron, and it'll make the return edge. If you've never done it, it's actually very hard. I've done it a couple times, and I don't really like messing with it. And you just basically, it looks like a little iron, like this big. You put it on there, you heat it up, and then you just slowly bend it down. It's going to be all wavy, bumpy. It's going to look funny. You're going to go in there, you're going to sand it down, and then you're going to buff it out. No matter how many times people tell you, oh, you sand it down, buff it out, it looks the same. It's not ever going to look, you're not going to buff it out, and it's not ever going to look the same as the rest of the armor. You're going to notice a little bit of difference. Well, you will. Maybe not the normal person won't see it, but you will definitely be able to see the difference if you make a new return edge. So worst case scenario, I'm going to have to trim some off here and then do the return edge. Hopefully I won't have to. Also, another thing that they did in the movies, we haven't done it yet, is you can cut like a little bit of a U in here, so you can cut some of this off to make it where you can bend, so your leg can come right here and it's not hitting this. Or maybe you can just trim off all this return edge. Whatever works. So here I did the pop snap rivets, so this can still move. I haven't glued it on there. I probably won't. I'll probably just leave it. I got to paint these white, and I just use pliers, and I just put it in here. Actually, I turned it this way first. That way you're not chewing up any of the plastic with the pliers. So I switched it in this way, and I get the pliers. Once I put it in and I snap the other side in, I just bring the pliers, and then I just push them like that, and it just crimps it. So if it does leave any mark from the pliers, I'm going to paint over this anyway, so I can paint over and fill in whatever marks it leaves. So that's what I use. So they're not regular rivets where you're riveting it on, and they're not split rivets where you split it on this side. They're pop rivets. So one side goes in, the other side just snaps on, and then you can do a second way, and you put it down and you hammer it in. But there's very little room here to hammer. I found it so much easier just to use slip joint pliers. So I've already glued the top. In the movie, they use a 2-inch one. It's elastic, and they just loop it around. Well, in the movies, they only use the armor, maybe a few months. But in real life, you could use this armor for years and years and years. Nylon does not stretch. Maybe it might a little bit, but more than likely this nylon will not stretch. The elastic over time could possibly stretch. So I use the nylon because it's a lot tougher. So we're going to put it on. So he's got the belt on. We're going to wrap it around. We're going to bring it down. And we can adjust how high or how low we need the tie. Once we got it adjusted, then we're going to flip it around and we're going to glue it down. And this will just glue into the leg, and you're done. You don't have to do any adjusting, because once you make that first fitting, you don't ever have to adjust these, as long as you wear the belt in the same spot every time. And one other thing I forgot to tell you, I don't use elastic, so I still have to heat this up just a little bit, and I'm trying to form it to where it fits more like this. So this second one, this side right here, I have to bend it in just a little bit, so it comes down just a little bit tighter. But right now, that actually isn't too bad. So I just come in here, and just undo these clips. And then you just put it on. So I have the inner strip and all my pieces just to make it stronger. So those are inner and there's the outer. So you just put it on, you just open it up, put it on your thigh, And then what I do, so this is the right side, my leg's in it, I just turn it to the inside. So here's my leg, I turn it to the inside, and then I come in here, I grab it, and then I just put it in the hole. I just find the hole, put it in, same thing with the next one. Find the hole, put it in, and put it in. And then that'll hold it together. And it's pretty much held together. It can probably flex just a little bit, but it's not going to go anywhere. Again, I just have to bend it down, just form it just a little bit more. But if you're looking from the outside, because this is the right, you're not going to see it. From the left, yes, you'll see it, but most people will see you from the right or the left side, so they're not going to even see that there's a big gap here. And now, the arm, so the shoulder bell. I use 3/4. I don't know if there's actually a measurement or exactly the size for this, but I like to use 3/4 because where the shoulder bell, this little piece is right here, the 3/4 fits in there nicely. The 1 inch is just a little bit too big, so I use 3/4 on that one, and I just go ahead and use it on the bottom. And I put a lot of excess material. I'm gonna fold it over, and I'm gonna put my snap in there. The snap will be facing up, so once you put it on, you just have somebody snap it in for you. And then on the bicep, I went ahead and put those in, inner, outer, and then I put a bicep clip in. I also have the elastic, 2-inch elastic, and you're going to line these two pieces up right here. The shims, the outer strips, you're going to line them up. You usually go in about 10 for this one, and then you find the halfway mark right here, and then that's where the edge goes here, so right in between there. Depending on how big you are, you might go closer, you might go further. Just all depends on how big you are. I've seen too many people though, they put when they do their bicep, they have their bicep all the way up as far as they can go. It's not supposed to be. If you look at some of them, the bicep, it could be that their clip failed, but a lot of them, their bicep is hanging out just a little bit. So the farthest down you can do it, the better. But since I'm using bicep clips, that's as far down as that's going to go. It's not going to go down any further. So once you put it on, everything's going to line up perfectly. So it lines up right here on my wrist, and then I have just that little bit of black here, and then a little bit of black here. Once it's snapped in right here, then I'm going to have perfect movement. I can touch my head, and I can put the helmet on. There shouldn't be any problem with putting the helmet on. Again, it all depends on how close this is, or how far away it is, if you can put your helmet on. So if you have any questions, if I didn't go into enough detail, if you haven't seen the other builds, then look at my other videos, and it'll show you a little bit more in detail how I actually trim, and I'll show you in another video real quick where I trimmed on the lines. These are just put together, but I'll show you on the ones that I haven't put together where I cut it for a screen accurate side.